You just left it for the reasons to take over. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't understand what that was.
Welcome to the Putnam County Library Lunch and Learn. Today we are joined by Don Hazel, president of the Tennessee Bluebird Society, presenting Bluebirds 201, Beyond the Basics. Take it away, Don.
Good morning, good afternoon. I don't see anybody brought their lunch. Yeah, I'm from across the way over here. I'm from Crossville, Fairfield Glade, and I know Lynn real well. We started the Tennessee Bluebird Society about 10 or 12 years ago. And then there are 8 clubs around the state, with one here. So this is a great place if you want to really get into bluebirds, to see Lynn after the meeting, and she's the president here, and we'll join the Bluebird Club and get really into bluebirds. So today we're going to talk about beyond the basics. I want to mention the basics. If you're a rookie, a lot of this is you're jumping right into your sophomore class, okay? You're going to skip freshman class today. But if you want to learn those kind of things, you can, and I'll tell you how. You can join the Bluebird Club. There are books, websites, and you can learn a lot about bluebirds. And bluebirds really need our help more than any other bird, except maybe bald eagles or something. And I'll tell you why. So, and if you have questions as we go, I usually say let's try to hold them to the end, but ask a question. If the question you think everybody in the room will benefit from, ask it. If it's about something going on in your backyard, get me after the meeting, okay? I don't want to answer a question that only you care about. I want it for everybody, okay? Any questions about that? All right. So let's see if I can get it going here. Here's our goal today. Our goal is to take you beyond the basics. I'm going to mention the basics. And if you're a rookie, you'll see them, but we're going to go even what's beyond that. We're in the junior year in college here for bluebirds. I'm going to show you how to increase your chances of successfully fledging birds in your yard. Fledging is when they grow up, leave the box, and go off to college. They fledge, they leave the box. And then I'll tell you how you can learn more, what the resources are to learn more. Because a lot of it you have to learn on your own. You're not going to have meetings like this for every step of the way. This will get you started. Any questions about that? Okay, here's some of the basics. And I'm saying you know the basics, or you're going to learn the basics. But eastern bluebirds, there's 3 kinds of bluebirds: eastern, western, and mountain. Eastern bluebirds are the ones we have here. They're basically east of the Mississippi, from Canada to Mexico. There were around 1900, there were about 20 million of them. That was what the estimate was. By 1960, they were down to 2 million. A 90% drop. What's the reason for that? 2 basic reasons. One, they didn't have a place to nest, because they have to nest in a hole in a tree, a hole in a fence bush. They're a cavity nester. If they don't have a hole in it nest in, they won't nest. They won't ever build a nest in a tree or a shrub. That was one reason. They didn't have enough places. People were taking down old trees and things. But
Don,
the main
what was
reason
the
was
date of the first amount?
about 1900,
1900.
and that's about the same time they introduced house sparrows and starlings from Europe. Okay, those 2 birds are invasive, non-native. They are also cavity nesters, and they take over every cavity they can find. And the bluebirds didn't have a place to nest. If they don't have a cavity or a place to nest, they just don't breed that year. So that's some of the reasons why it went from 20 million to 2 million. They have to have a cavity. When we build a box in a yard, it has an 1.5 inch diameter hole. That's always the standard. Smaller, they can't get in. Bigger, other birds can get in that you don't want in, like starlings, which go in and kill them. And that bird has to have ventilation, and the box must open. And this is the box I brought. John makes about the same kind of box over here. And the box has 1.5 inch hole, has to have ventilation. I tell people this is not poor workmanship on my part. This is on purpose so it has ventilation, because if it gets too hot in there, if it gets over about 110 degrees, the birds will die, the babies will die. And there's holes around the bottom and holes at the top so ventilation goes, and the box has to open. Many boxes you can buy at a store open up. And that's a problem, because when you open it up, you have to open it the whole way to see what's happening in there. With the box that opens down, you can open just a little bit and peek in. And if you have a box, you need to check it at least once a week in the summer, when the birds are nesting in the summer. Once a week. Why would you look in there? To see if everything's okay. If there's a wasp nest in there, the birds won't nest in there. If the birds nest in there, then the wasp won't come. I have people that had all summer long said, I never got any bluebirds. I look in their box and there's a wasp nest. If they'd have taken that out, they could have had bluebirds. And then you look to see if everything's okay. If there's a dead baby in there, usually the mother will take it out, but maybe she needs to take it out if she doesn't. With boxes, there's a much greater success, with you checking it, there's a much greater success rate than if you don't. And I'll show you that in just a second. So here's some more basics. They nest 2 or 3 times every summer. And each time, they always build a new nest. If you don't take the old nest out, they build on top. You don't want them to build on top because it has lice and mites and maybe blowworm larvae in there. You don't want them to start with a box that has a bunch of bugs and predators in there. So you always take the old nest out and put it in the garbage can. Don't put it on the ground. That'll tell a raccoon or a cat or something, hey, there's a nest right here. So you always put it in the garbage can. They usually, and they never, ever reuse a nest. People say, well, I'll leave it in there, they can use it again. They won't. They'll build on top or they won't go. They usually lay 3 to 6 eggs. They lay 1 a day. Once the last egg is laid, 14 days, only then does the mother sit on the nest. So 14 days later, they all hatch. It takes 14 days. And they all hatch usually the same day. Every once in a while, one goes the next day. And it's usually, once they hatch, it's usually 16 to 21 days till they leave college. Tennessee Tech, University of Tennessee, so there they go. Okay. And then monitor boxes have a success rate. I don't know how they calculated this, but this is why I can read it. If you have a monitor box, there's a 90% chance the birds will fledge. And we have found that because we monitor boxes across the state, and we have found that 84% of the eggs fledge. Now it's really higher than that because some eggs never hatch. But of the eggs that hatch, 90% of the birds successfully fly off to college. If they just nest in a tree or a box that you never look in, the odds are more like 65%. So you're helping if you do that. So why don't we help woodpeckers starting? They don't need our help. They're doing okay. They aren't predated by house sparrows as much. So that's why the bluebirds have now come back to 20 million where we were originally because of boxes that you all put in your yard. If you didn't do that, they don't have a place to nest. So now we're going to go beyond the basics. That's what I call this. You'll see that word a few times. I'll say it a few times because that's what I call this presentation. This is the first time I've done this one. I do other ones that are basic, but so we're going beyond the basics. From a few years ago, we have now started to build the boxes a little bigger, a little deeper, a little larger, and sometimes we put 2 holes in them. Why would we put 2 holes in them? The ones I have here, the one John has built, they don't have 2 holes. If you have house sparrows, the idea is you put 2 holes in there. The theory is if the house sparrow, I like to say, if the angel of death darkens the hole, if the house sparrow shows up in the hole, they'll jump on the bluebird and peck it to death. But if there's another hole, the bluebird can escape. Out in the open, the house sparrow can't hurt the bluebird. They can fly there. But in the box, when the house sparrow jumps on top of them, they'll kill them. And so 2 holes are a protection. The other thing is 2 holes might give better ventilation. So there's not a whole lot, there's not a big downside to 2 holes, but there's some advantages. So we're building boxes deeper than we used to. Deeper so that the nest is down lower. When the nest is near the top, an owl, a hawk, a blue jay, a crow can reach in there, yank out a baby, and take it away. But if the box is deeper, that's the other reason you take out the old nest, because they'll be on top, and sometimes I've opened a box that somebody's never monitored. There'll be 3 nests in there. The top nest is right at the hole. Anything can reach in there and get them, a cat, anything. So that's why we build deeper. And bigger, the theory is, there's a website that really touts bigger boxes. The theory is with a bigger box, the birds have more room to exercise their wings before they fledge. Does that work or not? I know the old Peterson boxes were ones that angled down, and the floor was only this big, but they still fledged. But it probably is better to have a bigger box like that. So we had a hot summer, and our bluebird So far, what we're seeing, we're just starting to get the results, because there's still a few birds in boxes. Looks like we didn't have quite as many as last year. We had a very, very hot summer. So, and we know of a couple nests. Mary and I were talking on the way over from Crossville that we know a couple nests where we found a box full of dead babies. We don't see that very often. We think maybe they've died, but it got too hot. But so there's some things you can do beyond a basic box to help. Heat shield. See this box? It has a double roof. Some people put a double roof on there, put a little spacer and then another roof on top. The first roof takes all the heat, there's ventilation between, and so all the heat isn't hitting on the top box. This box, even somebody put ventilation on the sides to keep the heat away. So the double roof might help. If your box is in the shade, that's helpful. You can have them out in the sun, and I have them we have lots of them out in the sun, but the sun, if it's in the shade, it'll keep the box cooler. A lighter colored box is better than a black box. When we took over a golf course that had boxes there already, all the boxes were brown, but the roofs were all white. And I thought, why did they do that? That was to keep the box cooler. So that's some other thoughts. And then you need ventilation, and the double hole may provide that. We don't do that on all the boxes. We do that where we have house sparrow problems, but we don't always do that. I know our club in Memphis is starting to put double holes in all the boxes. So that's just a thought. Okay. So let's do some problem solving. Let's say you have a damaged or broken box. I'll give you two examples. Somebody called me, they had a box. First of all, it was mounted on a telephone pole, and I'll tell you in a minute why that's no good. It was mounted on a telephone pole. It was an old box. The roof was old and rotten, and it had broken, and it was big crack this wide in the top of the box. Anytime it rained, the nest is going to get wet. The babies can easily die when that happens. So what do we do in that case? And then the other one was, box was on a 4x4 post. There was no predator guard, which I'll tell you more about in a second. And they were concerned they had raccoons around there. The raccoons would climb up the pole, reach in and get the babies. So what do you do in a case like that? Well, what we did was we moved the nest to a new box. We put a new box 20 feet away. From me to the back of the room, we put a new box and took the old box away. But then the first time we did this, we stood back and made sure Mama found the box, and she found it right away. She went to see where looked around. Oh, there's a hole, went in, and there were her babies. So that worked, and it worked in both cases. In both cases, we took the old box down, away, so she didn't try to go in there and wonder what happened. She saw the other box. And so if you have a problem, you can do that. It doesn't happen very often, but we've done it, and it worked. So we had two other cases where, and I'll tell you about the blue jay later too. Bluebird took some babies. Somebody had a box and she had 5 babies, and she looked and there were only 4. And the next day there was only 3, and it got down to 1. So with 1 baby, and that baby was going to go because the blue jay was somehow reaching in that box and getting the babies. It was a shorter box. And another case we had where the parents were both killed by a cat or something, and there was 1 baby left in the box. What do you do there? Taking them to a rehabber is not really a good idea. The closest rehabber that I know of is in Nashville, and they don't like to take songbirds because they get 100 of them. I know somebody took one there, and they had to join the organization and pay $50 to leave their little baby there. Well, there's another alternative, and we've done this twice and it's worked both times. We moved the baby to a nest with 8 similar age babies. The nest from the Bluebird, we knew that baby was 11 days old because we monitor that box regularly. It was 11 days old. So we looked on our records and we saw, oh, there's a box down the street. In fact, it was the people who live right across from Mary back there. They had babies 11 days old at John and Cindy's house. We took the baby, put it in the box. There were 4 babies in there. We put the 5th baby, the little orphan, in there, and they all 5 fledged. And we did that one other place too, from the one where the predator killed that one. And that baby was like 5 days old. We knew of a box with 5-day-old babies. We put it in there, and they all survived. So there's some things that are beyond the basics that we had to figure out.
I don't know if you want to stop, but how did you do that? Did you use gloves? I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, but you can touch the babies. You can touch babies. It's the theory that the mother will smell it and reject it. Not true. Birds have a very poor sense of smell. There's only 2 birds that really have a good sense of smell, and that's turkey vultures and kiwis that live in New Zealand. Okay, all other birds they don't have a very good sense of smell, and that doesn't bother them, doesn't affect them, so that's no problem. You don't want to touch the eggs though, and the reason is oil on your fingers may block the eggs are oxygen permeable, and you don't want to touch that and get get oil on the egg. But the babies are okay. If we have to do something with eggs, and Linda's done this, you get like a plastic spoon and do it. You know, what's that? Is there some game? So that's that. Here's another problem solving. Okay, the blue jay. We have Heidi, who has a box in her yard, one of our people over, one of our monitors over in Crossville. She was ironing one day, she looks out, and she sees this blue jay hanging around her bluebird box. It was sitting on the roof, it was on the tree branch. And so after a while, she went out and checked, and a baby was missing. She thought, well, where'd that baby go? She never saw the blue jay go in there. Well, this happened over the next hour or two, and finally, when she went out the last time, there was only one baby left. She didn't actually see the blue jay get it, but that's exactly what had to happen, because the blue jay, she saw it on the box, she saw it looking in the hole. So there was one baby left, and that's the baby that we took, the 11-day-old baby. So what do? Well, the first thing we did is we put a knoll guard on the box. And the knoll guard, you might have seen these, goes right over the hole like this. The bird can go through there, but it's mainly so raccoons can't reach in. The way a raccoon gets in a box, it just reaches in the hole, yanks everybody out, rips the wings off, and eats them right there. And if you know if a raccoon got in your box, so the nest will be pulled out of the box, things will be on the ground. So you put this in there, and the raccoon's arm isn't long enough to get in and down, okay? We used to think that this little thing, this little hole cover, would prevent raccoons from reaching in, because it made it double thick. But it's not, it doesn't do that. Raccoons have longer arms than that. So these, it's called a knoll guard, N-O-E-L, by the name of the guy that invented it. And the raccoon can't reach in that far. But this, sometimes you'll see the plans for these, and it'll show it to be 5 or 5.5 inches deep. I'm telling you, they gotta be 6 inches or 6.5 inches deep. Because we originally put them on at 5.5 inches deep, and the raccoons were still getting in. So at 6.5 inches deep, they don't have long enough arms to reach through there, down the hole, grab a baby, and yank them out. So that's a knoll guard. So we put a knoll guard on, thinking, well, that'll keep the blue jay out, okay? But it didn't. This year, 2 years later, the bluebird is still out there. It must got to be the same bluebird, and it got all 4 babies this year. There were 4 babies that got them all. So what are we going to do next year? Well, I think what we're going to do, we're going to put a deeper one of these on there. So even if the blue jay gets in there, it's got too far to go, and we're going to put a deeper box in her yard. She has a box that's not as deep as these. It's only about that high. And so then the nest will be deeper, it'll be further out, and that's our plan. We don't have the answer yet, but we think that's the answer. So you gotta be thinking, how do we keep these things safe? And you know, blue jays have to eat too. We wish they wouldn't eat our bluebird babies, but they have to eat too. You know, if a hawk or an owl picks off a bird in the air, that's nature, okay? But if someone's cat or a raccoon or a snake gets in a box and eats them, we'd rather they go eat somewhere else, okay? We would rather not see that. So that's what we plan to try for that. Okay, house sparrows. I mentioned house sparrows. These are the guys you see around the supermarket, McDonald's, Lowe's,
French fries.
your new Home Depot that's coming. Yeah, they eat French fries. And the male is very distinctive. He's got a little black bib, and that's what they look like. The female's less distinctive, but she looks kind of like any other sparrow, but she has a plain breast, no stripes, no spots, anything. That's one way you tell. But this guy will always be around. This is what they do to bluebirds. They go in the box, jump on them, and peck them to death. Sometimes they just peck out their eyes and leave them to die. Sometimes they peck them to death like that, and they build their own nest on top and raise their babies. They're not nice little birds. They're invasive. They're non-native. There are only 2 songbirds in the whole United States you're allowed to kill anytime you want. These guys and starlings. The 1.5-inch hole keeps the starlings out. We never have a problem with starlings. But these guys can go in the 1.5-inch hole also. So what do? Well, there's a couple things you can do. First thing, there's their nest. I got one back there. The nest is a mess. It's got all kinds of stuff in there. It's got plastic paper. Often it has cigarette butts in there. It's not a pretty nest. And they fill it to the top, okay? The seed weeds have seed heads on it, bluebirds don't have that on there. That's a house sparrow nest. So normally, first thing everybody does is remove that, okay, and hope the bluebird will come and nest. And we do that too. But you might remove them 3 or 4 or 5 times and they still try to go back. So that's the basic. Now here's the beyond the basics. This is the greatest invention ever made for house sparrow problems. It's called the Van-Ert, V-A-N-E-R-T trap. You put it inside the box. This dot goes where the hole is, and then you set it by bending this down and putting it like that. And so, and you leave, I leave part of the house sparrow nest in there. You know, if it's to the roof, you gotta take some out so there's a fit in there. But I leave some of the house sparrow nest in there. And in fact, I put some right here so that they don't see that red dot when they look in there, because I've seen them looking in there. When the house sparrow goes in there, he steps on this little trigger in the box, and this snaps shut and covers the hole. So the house sparrow's in there alive, covering the hole. So then you have to, now, and this is gonna not end good for the house sparrow, so be prepared for this. So then you gotta get them out of there. So I started using like a clear plastic bag, and the reason I put over everything and then open the door and let them get in the clear plastic bag. But I've had them escape. When they come out of there, they're fluttering like crazy, and if there's one little gap, they find it. So I made a vow earlier this year, I will never lose another house sparrow. And so I'm very careful now. So I use a laundry bag that you buy at Walmart for $1.50, cover everything, open the door, and the sparrow's in there, and then you can grab them, okay? And the reason you do that, sometimes you'll catch a tree swallow, or a bluebird, or a house wren, or a chickadee, and I've caught them all, because we don't know who's gonna go in there. When you put this on the box, you can't go home. You stand back, and within 30 minutes you usually have a bird in there, okay? And then you have a house sparrow. So then what do? You have to humanely euthanize them. You don't torture them or anything like a cat might do. You have to humanely euthanize them. My daughter-in-law puts them in a plastic bag and sprays, I don't know where she bought this can of CO2, and it takes the oxygen out and they die. The way that's recommended is you hold them and snap their neck, and it kills them instantly. There's no suffering, and they're dead. And that saves a whole nest of bluebirds, okay? And people say, well, I can't do that. When you see this picture where they killed all the bluebirds on the nest, I have no trouble doing that. So that if you can't do it, you probably need to find somebody to do that, or you probably need to take your bluebird nest down, because they'll kill your bluebirds, okay? So that's not nice to talk about, but that's the facts of life. The other thing you can do is the bluebirds like to, I'm gonna put this right here. The house sparrow male chooses the box. He loves this box more than he loves any of the other female house sparrows. That's his box. He'll sit right here and he'll sing to attract a female, and that's his box. If you catch a female and kill the female, that's his box. He'll call in another female. So one solution is to put a sparrow spooker on the top, and this is just I just made this one and put the mylar stuff on there that you can buy on Amazon. You roll a mylar and put it on there, and you use staples, not glue, because if it gets hot, the glue melts and these things fall off. That scares the house. It's called a sparrow spooker because it scares the sparrow, and he doesn't sit on here and he doesn't claim the box. Now, normally they say put it on after the first egg is laid by the bluebird, so that the bluebird doesn't scare the bluebird. But my daughter had a house sparrow problem. She put this on the box right away. The bluebird, within 10 minutes, was sitting on top of it. So it doesn't scare the bluebird, but it scares the house sparrow, okay? So then that's one thing you can do, the sparrow spooker. Another thing is take fishing line, just clear fishing line that you buy at Walmart for cheap amount of money, and that's the sparrow spooker. And then you put it on either side of the hole. And you tack it up here, and you tack it down here, and you have fishing line going from here to here, just on either side of the hole. Well, the theory is the bluebirds have very good eyesight because they spot insects on the ground and catch them from here to there. House sparrows don't need as good of eyesight because they eat seed. They just go find the seed. So they get in there, and if their wings hit that fishing line, it scares them and they won't go in there. I've never done that, but one of our monitors has done that by the fairgrounds in Crossville, and he claimed it worked well. And it's advertised as working well on Bluebird's site. So that's another thing you can do. And then the third thing is a box with a skylight. And there's a guy, you can find the information about this too, but the roof, instead of being a solid roof, you drill a hole and you put clear plastic on it. And the theory is that house sparrows don't like a light box inside, but it doesn't affect bluebirds. There's a guy that I'll tell you about in a minute that he's going to come and speak from Pennsylvania at our annual meeting that you're all invited to in Crossfield, in Fairfield Glade, in November 1. And he took over a field that some Boy Scouts had put up of 15 bluebird boxes. Every box, nobody ever monitored it for 3 years. And he found it, and he went to the school that's property and said, hey, do you mind if I take over this and monitor these? They said, okay. 15 boxes, every box had house sparrows in them. And so he put these kind of roofs on every box. And 3 years later, he's got nothing but bluebirds and no house sparrows. He did some other things. He trapped some and so forth, but he tried this. I did this at UT Ag Center and tried it this year, and I didn't get any house sparrows in that box. I also didn't get any bluebirds. So I don't know. I'll try it again, and I'll try it at another location. The place I put it was mostly a house sparrow area and near the building, so I'll try it some other places to see if it affects the bluebirds. That's another thing you can do though. So instead of just taking the nest out, you can trap them, put a sparrow spooker up, and do some other things. House wrens. There's two kind of wrens based. Yes.
If you come back after your birds have fled,
Yeah.
and you come back and the nest is out, you know, like I didn't take it out, but the nest was all over the ground. What would happen to cause that after the birds have already
It was
fled?
probably a raccoon because did you have a predator guard on it, Bob?
Yes.
Well, normally a raccoon will reach in and pull everything out. A cat will do that also, and a cat can jump up to the top of the box, and that could have been it. That's the only things I know that would do it, or else. I've heard that possums can get up there and may try that. They're looking for something in there and pulling everything out, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That would be my guess as to what it might have been.
Well, fortunately, they were already gone, so that's.
The other thing, I gotta turn this off so I don't ding in here. The other thing might be a human. Sometimes we try to figure what's going on here, and it might have been a human looking in there trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know. That's how I know that we pull it out. So house wrens. There's two kind of wrens basically around here. Carolina wrens, they have a little white stripe on their eye. They sing like beautifully. And house wrens, and they sing beautifully too. Great voice. House wrens are a native bird, so are Carolina wrens. Carolina wrens cause no trouble. House wrens, native bird, but they do cause big trouble. We don't like to have house wrens around when there's bluebirds, because is what they do. They go in the bluebird box and they poke holes in the eggs. This is under my box last year. They went and they'll take all the eggs out and drop them on the ground and smash them. They did that last year. They did that twice in my yard in the last few years. The wrens, they go in the hole. They want to use that box. They take the eggs out and destroy them. So we don't like wrens, but they're native birds, so we can't harm them. We can't wring their little necks. So, and this is a wren nest, and I've got a wren nest in that little box back there. It's sticks. You see a box full of sticks, it's a wren nest. Well, here's what they do. The male will fill every cavity he can find. If he can find 5 bluebird boxes or 3 bluebird boxes and 2 hollow trees, he'll fill every one with sticks, hoping to attract a female to one of those. The female will lay eggs in one of those. The other 4 go unused. And they're unused by everybody because it's filled to the roof with sticks. So if we find just sticks, we take them out because it's not a nest. But if we wait too long and there's a nest in there, I don't have a nest picture, but I have a nest picture back there by that box. If there's a nest and eggs, if the female chooses those sticks, puts a nest and eggs in there, then we have to leave it because it's a native bird. We like to not let it get that far. We like to take the sticks out so that the wren doesn't go and poke holes in the egg. The normal thing with the wrens is, first thing you do is remove the sticks. Well, when you look in next week, there'll be more sticks usually. And you might have to do that several times. Another way is to move the box away from brushy areas. Wrens like brushy areas. Out in the middle, if you put a box out in the middle of a golf course, with 50 yards from anything, you won't get a wren. They like to be near brushy areas. They like to hide. They don't feel safe going across open ground. So that's another, you could move a box. We had a box at a golf course that got wrens, sticks, 3 weeks in a row. It was right here. It was all brushy right there. We moved it to the other side of the fairway that was bordered by another fairway, so it was wide open. Got bluebirds and never got any more wrens. So that's another way. The other way is you can plug the hole for a week so the wren can't get in there, and after a week, hope the wren gave up, went somewhere else, and maybe the bluebirds will come. That's the traditional things we normally do. But there's one more step you can take, and I've used this in my yard. It's called a wren guard. And if the wren can't see the hole, he won't go there. So the best thing is to wait until the bluebird gets an egg, and hopefully the wren, until there's an egg, there's nothing for the wren to do. Then you put a wren guard on there like this, and the wren can't see the hole. Can you all see that? The wren can't see the hole, so he doesn't go in there. So when I put it in, first I made this just out of scrap wood. First thing I do is I put a rock under here, so it holds it like that, so the bluebird finds the hole. Next day, I drop it just a little bit lower, and the third day, I drop it down to there, and then the bluebird flies right underneath and goes in there. The only problem is one year I made it, and I didn't have sides on it, and the wren had already been in there before I made it and put it up there. It was just this and this, and the wren went right around the side because he knew the hole was there already. But this worked pretty well. I haven't had any problems in the last 2 years since I did this. So that's a wren guard. So that's going a little further to help save your bluebird from house wrens. Okay, there's a couple more predator guards. I said 65% success rate in an old tree, 90% in a box that is protected. That's because in an old tree, raccoons climb up that tree, snakes go up that tree, rat snakes, gray rat snakes, non-venomous, can climb anything. They can climb the side of a brick house. They can do anything. They'll find the birds and go up there and eat them. So this knoll guard, which I've told you about, that protects against raccoons. On some of our golf courses, we have 4x4 posts. We can't put this other predator guard on there because they'll get dinged up with golf balls. The golf course doesn't want us to have those. So we protect from raccoons, but a snake can go right around that. But here's what we use. It's called Kingston Predator Guard. And we put those on there. And normally we've been putting them on for years at 2 feet tall. 6 inches or 8 inches in diameter. You buy them at Lowe's. You can make them yourself. You can buy them at Wild Birds Unlimited. Theirs are fabulous, much more sturdy, but they cost, instead of $5, they cost $50. So you can make these. Now this one is not where we put them anymore because a long snake can possibly reach around that and get up there. Now we put them up higher, okay? And then and that's pretty effective against snakes, but not 100%, because a long snake can wrap around that pole, get up to here, and reach around here, and then get up here. And you know you got a snake in, you had babies or eggs one day, and you look in, and everything's gone. The nest is not messed up at all. The snake goes in, eats everybody, and then leaves. Or, as has happened to us a number of times, you open the nest and you're staring at a snake. A fat snake, because it's just eating everybody. So the thing with that, instead of a short predator guard, we put a long one out. They say you can buy these things 6 feet long, 60 inches, 5 feet long at Lowe's. But the problem with that is the posts we use are 5 feet long, and this thing hits the ground. It's got to wobble. Those, if I held them up there, they wobble back and forth. It's only connected up here. So what we do is we buy two 2-footers. We put a rivet in them and put them together, so now it's 48 inches long, and it goes to within that far of the ground. It can still wobble. And everywhere we can, we put these on there now. We used to do all that. Any boxes we sell, we put those on there, because it adds another $10 or $12 to add another piece on there. So anyone we sell, we automatically, if you buy a box from this club, or our club, or anywhere from the Bluebird clubs, it has a 2-foot predator guard on it. But you can add another one, or we could add another and sell it to you that way. But that's the ultimate protection against snakes. And snakes are the #1 predator of bluebirds in Tennessee. Rat snakes climb right up, eat everybody, and leave. Here's a picture my wife took at one of ours, and you can see we had a long prairie dog there. And look how high the snake is reaching up. He's reaching, that's about 6 inches or less. That's 2 feet, and that's another almost a foot. So it's reaching up above there. That's a gray rat snake. And I even had another picture where the snake goes underneath, and he disappears except just the tip of his tail sticking out. So he wound all the way up that skinny pole, but he can't wind around all that. They keep sliding down. So that's the ultimate picture against snakes. That's called a Kingston prairie. Now there's a couple of them with the longer ones on there that we have. Okay, bears. You've had some bears over this way, haven't you? We got lots of them over my place. I had pictures of them going through my backyard a couple of times. But we have at the wastewater treatment plant in Fairfield Glade, which is a fabulous place. Once you get by the first pond that doesn't smell so good, and then it goes through all the stuff, and then there's all these fields where after the wastewater goes through 4 ponds where they raise minnows in the last one, then it gets sprayed out over these fields, and those beautiful fields, cut short all the time, perfect for bluebird boxes. But there's bears that live down that area, and this year we lost 13 eggs and 22 babies to the bear. 1 or 2 bears, and this is what they do to a box. They just tear it all apart. I take those home and glue them all back together and put them back up, so I can fix those. But that's what the bear, they started out just taking boxes down that were empty because they thought it was a bird feeder, and they were looking for the bird seed. Now they determined there's babies in there, so that's what we lost. So what do you do? What can you do about the bear? Not a whole lot, but I looked on a site I'll tell you about later called Cialis.org. It has all kinds of information on bluebirds. I mixed up peanut butter with crushed red pepper and cayenne pepper, and I put it in these little, the guy that invented this out in Idaho was having a problem, and he puts a little ball of this stuff, about the size of a golf ball, under the box. Well, I didn't want raccoons and ants and anything else that comes along to eat that. I just wanted it for the bear. So I tie a little string and I hang it from the box about this far below the box. And the theory on that is the bear's coming for the box. He's done it before. He knows there's birds in there. He can smell them. I'll tell you about bear smell in a second. And he smells the peanut butter. Aha! That's even better smelling than the birds. He eats the peanut butter and gets a mouthful of cayenne pepper and runs. So after the first 8 boxes got torn out by the bear all the same day, I put these up and I only lost 1 other box. And that box I didn't have the I call them bear treats. I didn't have the bear treats on there. So now as soon as I get eggs in any box, I put the bear treats on there. I did that in the summer, and I didn't lose any more boxes after that. Yeah.
So when you take the peanut butter, you mix the cayenne pepper in the peanut butter and stick it in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mix a whole bunch of cayenne pepper. These are big containers.
I've got it.
and always wear a thing around your nose, because even though it's in the bowl, you get it. So I can only imagine what it's like for the bear. So anyway, that's what we do with the bear. Okay, here's something most people, who ever heard blowflies in a bluebird box? Whoa! So I had them in my yard a number of years ago, and I rarely see them anymore, but they're still out there. And the way you know you have them, you look in the box, and if you look under usually you find them when you take the old nest out. But if you look under the nest, you'll see these little things. These are the larvae, and these are the pupa. Just like anything else, the larva is like a maggot kind of thing, and the pupa is a little round thing that, doesn't turn into a butterfly, it turns into a fly. And these are what the flies look like, and I don't know if I've ever even seen one because there's so many species of flies. But what they do is they come in and they lay their eggs in it. They come in the nest, in the ventilation hole or anywhere else. They lay the eggs in the nest, the larvae hatch, the larvae get into the nest, and at night especially, they say, they climb up and they suck blood out of the babies. Now, even that many, what I read is that picture, even with that many, all babies fledged. So it's a thing of nature, they're sucking on some blood, everything's okay. But they can make the babies weaker, and that babies, instead of fledging in 16 days, might not fledge for 21 days or so. So if you have those, it's better to not have them, okay? So what you do is, what do you do with those things? So what we really should be doing is more looking under the nest, take a spatula, lift it up and see if you see any of that stuff. And if we do, what we do is first you scrape them out onto the ground. Second, well, I have these out of order. Second, you might add diatomaceous earth. We put diatomaceous earth under the nest so that any insects, ants, lice, mites get in that, and it's not a poison, but it gets in the joints of insects and they bail out. So you can put diatomaceous earth there. If it's really bad, what happens is they get up in the nest. So you lift up the nest and you see some there and you scrape them out, but there's probably more up in the nest that don't go up to get to the babies until night. So sometimes you might have to put a clean nest in there and make some out of the grass and put a clean nest in there. Another way is that you might have seen these at the bottom of some boxes. You might see a little screen that sits up about 1/2 inch. The theory there is the larvae fall down under the screen and then they can't get back up into the nest to get to the babies. And I've even read, and I hope I don't have to do this, if you do too, but I've even read if you look at the babies, where these things will get them is around their feet or under their little wings. And you're supposed to pick off the thingies and do that. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but you could do that. If you don't do that, they'll probably survive. It's part of nature. They've lived with it for hundreds of years, but that's something to be aware of. You get a big infestation of those guys. Okay? Chickadees. We love chickadees. They're cute little birds. They have cute little eggs and cute little babies. And there's a nest back here. They always have a nest with a moss. My nest doesn't have much moss. Sometimes the moss is that thick. And then on top they put animal fur. There's some rabbit fur. I've actually seen in my backyard one sitting on top of a groundhog that was eating clover, pulling hair off the top. I saw that happen. And I've seen pictures of them on a sleeping dog getting hair put around their nest. So that's what they do. And then, but they're shy little birds, and they often get displaced by bluebirds or tree swallows. And so to protect them, we if we can, we try to put a Carolina hole guard on there. Nest holes 1.5 inches. We put this on, which is 1/8. Only the chickadee can get through. And so the chickadee lives happily. No bluebirds or tree swallows or house sparrows can get in there to disturb them. But as soon as you take the nest out, because the baby's fledged, you need to take this off of there, because now no other birds can get in there. So we got to remember to put them on. We got to remember to take them off. But that'll protect chickadees. So we try to do that where we can. Problem is we have, 4 monitors. We might have 8 monitors. 2 go one week, 2 go another week, 2 go next week. Well, who has the chickadee thing in their pocket when they get out there and they find a chickadee? That's the difficult. We don't know what box is going to get it. But if we can, we try to remember to put one of those on there for chickadees. Okay, a couple thoughts about monitoring. Nest watch. Let me tell you about Nest watch. And I know in every bluebird club around the state, some people like Nest watch, some don't. We used to put it in a book, write it down. I was out here in this state, I saw 4 eggs, and it was a complete nest. And next week we'll go back and there's 4 babies, and we keep track so we know how many fledged and everything like that. We thought that information went somewhere, but 8 years ago we determined it doesn't really go anywhere. It just goes to the Tennessee and stops. It needs to go to Cornell University so they get information about bluebirds. So Cornell has invented an app called Nest Watch, and you put it on your phone. A lot of people my age, some of your ages out here, are afraid of this stuff. And so I want to show you how we used to, people like, I still write it down, and then when I get home I put it in here because I'm afraid to use this thing on my phone. I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to go to Nest Watch. So if I find it on my phone. Okay, here's Nest Watch. I come to a nest, and it's got a new nest and 4 bluebird eggs in it. Okay, here's what I do. Go to that nest. I'm going to say visit, used current date, bluebird. I'm going to type in bluebird. I just type in east for eastern bluebird, and I find it right there. I type that in. It's got 4 eggs, and first egg was laid 4 days ago, so I'll say it was laid on the 14th. Put that in there. It's a complete nest. The mother was there, and then she left, and I hit done, and I'm done. And that information goes in there. Next week, when the different monitor goes out there, they see, oh, there was 4 eggs last week, and the first egg was laid. Okay, they're probably about ready to hatch. So all that information is in there, and all of it goes instantly to Cornell University. If you don't do that, it's going nowhere. Or if you write it on paper, and then when you go home, it takes twice as long. That's how simple it is. And so I'm speaking to some people in Cookville Club, especially, who didn't want to do it, and also the other clubs around the state. A lot of people say, not a lot, some people say, I'm going to write it down and do it when I get home. Do it on the field. You don't have to be connected. If you're not connected, as soon as you get into Wi-Fi, it connects it. You can take pictures, you can put notes, you can do all kinds of stuff right there. That's how simple it is, okay? So that's what we do nowadays to keep track. It all goes to Cornell. They know how many bluebirds fledged in Tennessee that we monitor this year. Okay, here's a little bit about monitoring. Okay, our monitors are well, they'll say, the egg, last week there was 2 eggs and today the eggs are missing. And then they move on. That's not enough. You gotta figure out what's happened. What happened? Why were they missing? Did a predator get them? Did somebody build a nest on top? Did a wren take them away? You can't just say 2 eggs are missing. You gotta use your head and try to think. And so I'm speaking now to people that are monitors, or if you're monitoring a box in your backyard. Or it'll say, baby's missing. There were 5 babies last week, now they're missing. Well, did they fledge? Or did somebody eat them? Or what happened? We need to be thinking so that we can put that in the information. Or somebody will out and they say last week there was babies and now there's 2 eggs. Well, they don't ever lay eggs in an old nest, so they're not new eggs. Maybe the babies all fledged and they build a new nest on top, and now it's new eggs. Or look at these eggs. These eggs are old eggs. They were in the nest when the babies fledged, and those eggs never hatched. So we need to be thinking, what is that? And those eggs, they're not, new eggs are bright and shiny like that. Old eggs have been sitting there for 14 days or 20 days until the babies fledged. They're all dirty and not shiny. So as you look in your box, don't just say, oh, they're gone. What happened? You try to think about that. We just tell people to try to think. These are eggs that are never going to hatch. You open a box and their eggs are down in the nest like that, they're never going to hatch. That nest has been abandoned. We take that nest out, they'll build a new nest and start again. Yes?
What causes eggs to not hatch?
About 10% at least eggs just never hatch. They don't get fertilized or something happens. It's just natural that they don't always hatch. And so that's not a problem, it's just the way it goes. John?
So we discussed this in our meeting, our last meeting, but I want to get your opinion of it. If you've got babies that are 7 days old,
Yeah.
6 days old, and there's an egg in there that never hatches, it's obviously not going to hatch at that point. Would you take it out or
I would leave it in. You could take it out. Some people take it out. Be careful. If you break that egg, then you got a broken egg in there, and that gooey stuff is going to attract flies, which is not a good thing to have it. Flies and maggots in there looking for that. So you could take it out. Often the mother will take it out. Sometimes she won't. Me personally, I would leave it there. Some people do take it out.
How does a bird take one?
What's that?
How does a bird take an egg out?
They can open their mouth and take it right out of there.
Seriously?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Well, that's what happened in this instance. I just didn't know if it would be advisable to take it out.
Yeah.
When you know it's not going to hatch, or just leave it to her.
I would probably leave it personally, but some people would take it out. Neither answer's that wrong. Okay, resources. How do you learn? We're getting closer to the end now. How do you learn all this stuff? Okay. Well, there's a bunch of things. I'm going to go through them one by one. There's books. There's Bluebird magazines. There's places on the internet and so forth. And your brain. You got to use your brain. You can't just, oh, the eggs are one. Okay. So here's a book. This is an excellent book. One of the best. I think probably the best I've ever read. This book is written by Dr. Dean Rust. He's the president of the Pennsylvania Bluebird Society, and he's been the president up there for a number of years. He speaks. He goes to places and speaks, and he's spoken all over the eastern United States. He's coming to Tennessee November 1 on our annual meeting. He's going to speak there. This is an excellent book. It has everything you want to know in here. If you want to buy this book, you can buy it. You can order it online. I got a little paper here I can tear off and give it to you. His website is called bluebirdconservation.com, bluebirdconservation.com. And it's like $19.95 and about $24 when you add shipping, okay? He's shipped a bunch down to me and we've sold them at our meetings and so forth. He's coming in November and I'm told him to bring a bunch of books, so you can buy them then or you can order them from him. That's an excellent book to learn about bluebirds. So that's one possibility. So yeah, there's our annual meeting. If you are here today and you want to come, let Lynn know on the way out, because we need to know if you're coming, we know how many are coming. You're welcome to come, just let us know, that's all. So that's, in Fairfield Glade on November 1st. So there's another, here's a magazine from the North American Bluebird Society, comes out, 4 times a year. Excellent, I learn something every time I get this magazine. It's full color, it's got lots of information, that's the thing. To get that, you have to join the North American Bluebird Society. It normally costs $25 a year, but if you join the Cookeville Bluebird Club, you get your first year for only $15. Lynn has applications if you want to join this. If you really want to learn about bluebirds, this is a great book to get. I can't wait till I get this every month, every quarter. So that's excellent. Here's a website to remember. If you don't remember anything else, remember this: cialis.org. Not Cialis with the 2 bathtubs in the field. This is the scientific name for bluebirds. Cialis, SIALIS, cialis.org. It's got, that's where I learned how to fix the bear problem. That's where you learn about wren guard, all that stuff. There's everything about bluebirds you ever want to know is there. You look up house sparrows, there's like pages and pages to tell you about. Cialis.org, that's an excellent site to know. So, and then there's on Facebook, and I know some people are afraid of Facebook. Billy, I'm on Facebook every day, but I don't read what's happening with the Kardashians or whatever else is going on. I go to some sites, there's a Fairfield Glade wildlife page, there's a snake page, there's a snake bite page, and there's bluebird pages. And there's only about 5 places I go. I don't go to those crazy places. So Bluebirds Unfiltered is an excellent Facebook page. If you join Facebook and go to Bluebirds Unfiltered, it's run by a woman named Marcia Van Horn. I don't know her, I don't know where she lives, but there's people post on there, hey, I had this problem. And I'll give you an example. Twice in the last month, I saw people say, okay, I had the eggs hatched in 14 days, but I saw the egg, I'm checking my box, there were 5 eggs, and I saw the mother would never be sitting on the eggs for 2 weeks. She's flying around eating mealworms at my house and catching insects, but I never saw her on the nest for 2 weeks. And then finally, after 2 weeks, she sat on the nest, and 14 days later they hatched. Well, most cases, after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if the eggs didn't hatch, we would think, well, they're not going to hatch. But here I learned you can't make that quick decision. You gotta. So I learned that happened twice. You learn stuff all the time on that website, Bluebirds Unfiltered. And then there's the other Facebook pages of all the Bluebird Society. The Tennessee Bluebird Society has a Facebook page. Cookeville has one. Cumberland County, Virginia, Pennsylvania. If you go in there and just search for bluebirds, you'll find all kinds of sites, and you'll learn a whole lot about bluebirds. Or anything else you want to learn about. The Kardashians, maybe, I don't know. So basically, it's a matter of thinking, getting the knowledge that you need, looking it up if you have to, but thinking about it, and you have a very, very good chance of getting bluebirds. Of the boxes we put in people's yards, over 90% of them get birds the first year. It's usually about 65-70% bluebirds, somewhere around 30% tree swallows, and maybe 5-10% chickadees. And then a couple other that we throw out, like the house wren sticks or the house sparrows, we throw those out there. But you get birds. I mean, and it's not the bluebirds say, oh, there's a nice house. They say there's a nice hole. They see a hole, they're looking. I don't know how many times I put a box up in someone's yard, and 10 minutes down the road or 30 minutes down the road, I've got a phone call. There's a bluebird on my house already. I put one in someone's yard this summer, and he wanted 3 boxes, and you had to have them 100 yards apart because bluebirds are territorial. You won't get 2 bluebirds if they're closer than that. We put the first one in, we're 100 yards away, putting a bluebird, we look, and there's a bluebird on his box. We say, oh, there's a bluebird on the box already. And then we look, and she's already carrying nesting material in the box, like 15 minutes later. So the chances of they need a place to nest, and you put a box up, and they'll find a place, okay? Hey, you've graduated. You're all ready to go to the next stage, or the first stage, whatever it takes. Any questions? Yes?
Well, when you were talking about when you have the disappearing eggs or the disappearing babies, and newborns or babies, how do you figure out what happened these happen.
So as you go into the Bluebirds 301, you'll do that by yourself, by self-study, by looking at books and stuff like it. If you look in a box and the babies are missing,
Yeah.
okay, there's only a few things that can happen. One, a blue jay could have taken them, that was a new one for us. A snake could take it. If you have a predator guard on there, it probably wasn't a snake, because they can't get up there. But we had one where we had these on the boxes at Bear Trace Golf Course, and we knew a snake got it because all the babies are missing. There's a tree right overhead that was like right this far above the box, so the snake, they're not gonna jump down, but if they can still hang on and reach, so we determined the snake could come in from above, so we had to clip those branches. If we go in the nesting material pulled out of the hole, okay, that's a raccoon, or possibly a cat. A cat will reach in there and with his claws just hook the babies and pull them out of there. So he doesn't get as much nesting material as a raccoon will, but you learn stuff like that as to what happens. If a baby dies, the mother will sometimes take it out of there, but sometimes she won't. So John, you said you take an egg out. I may not take an egg out, but if I see a dead baby in there, I'm gonna take it out of there probably. So there's some stuff that isn't fun to do, but you'll figure it out as you learn more and more. And sometimes I look and like, okay, I don't know. So I'll say on the app here, I'll say it was probably a snake, or possibly a snake. I don't know, but I used everything I have, and I'm thinking, well, it probably had to be a snake. I don't know what else could have taken it, or whatever you do. So you have to think a little bit. And sometimes you may not have an answer. You know, sometimes nature knows more than we do, and we can't figure it out. But usually you can get pretty close after you get more information. Yeah.
And about the picture you had up there with the house wren punching a hole in the eggs, does the sparrow, when they get the eggs, does it look similar or is it different?
I'm not sure because I think the sparrow bites them and makes a bigger hole, is what I've read. I'm not sure I've seen them like that. I've seen the house wrens. But the sparrow, mainly the sparrow problem is they kill the mother or the babies. And if the eggs are missing, it's more likely a wren. Usually the house sparrow likes to get in there and jump on somebody. Yeah.
So I have a long patio porch, really long. And on either side this year, I had bluebirds. They nested in the pillars. And I guess it's because it's like an archway and it's a safe place for them to be.
Yeah.
My question is, I didn't monitor. I mean, I kind of monitor them because I watch them every morning, you know, when I'm eating breakfast.
Yeah.
And I would see them and then I finally saw the fledglings leave and everything. I've left those nests in there because I know nothing about bluebirds. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
And so I got invited to this, and so now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take the nests out. But my question is, once they're all reset for more bluebirds to come in, they're so high up, it's hard for me to monitor how many eggs are in there or anything. Can I just leave it alone?
You can. I mean, that's what you could do.
I mean, I know they're bluebirds,
Yeah.
but.
I have a picture on here I can show you.
There's telescoping mirrors.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, I do have a little picture here. Here's a box I made for somebody. They had a Carolina wren hanging around their house. And Carolina wrens nest in crazy boxes. You can make a box this square with only the door coming half. It only comes half, and the whole top is open. The whole top of the side is open. So I had some scrap lumber, and I said, oh, I have this. I was messing around. I'll give it to you. Maybe your Carolina wren will nest in there. 4 years in a row, the bluebirds nest in there. It's on this porch under these. It's not a typical bluebird house. A snake could get up there, could climb the bricks and climb the posts, but he's been lucky and it did nest there. So you can do that. I have another picture. I don't have it with me today. Somebody had a house with big pillars on it, and they had flowers or trees coming up these pillars on either end of the porch, and they had a hanging basket. Now, if you have a bird in a hanging basket on your porch, it's almost always a house finch. Or it could be a Carolina wren, but usually it's a house finch. So he had house finches in this fern. And one more side note, if you have a wreath on your front door and you have a nest in it, it's almost 99% a house finch. Okay? So he had a house finch in this hanging basket on his covered porch with pillars on either end, and a snake came up the pillar, across, and got in and got all the babies in there. So the snakes can climb anything. So by having them in a box with a pole and this on there is the safest thing you can possibly do. And you can put them on, you can nail a box on the side of the tree is the absolute worst place, because then ants, cats, chipmunks, anything can get up there and get them. Gray squirrels are not a problem because they can't get in the hole. Sometimes they'll chew on the hole and make it bigger, but gray squirrels are not a problem. Flying squirrels, and we have flying squirrels where we are, they go through that hole like it's not even there, and they'll eat the mother or the babies or the eggs. We don't get them very often, and the solution for that is you got to move the box away around the corner of the house where the flying squirrel can't see it, or further away, at least 50 yards away, so a flying squirrel doesn't dive down to it. So there's all kind of things you got to get into. Yeah.
Will Carolina wrens poke the eggs?
Never
Because I
had that.
have Carolina wrens in at my house, and I've never seen a house wren, but I have had the eggs poked.
I've never ever heard of a Carolina wren
Okay.
doing that. It's house wrens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the nests look the same for a Carolina wren? And a
Carolina
house
wren kind of looks not too much different than a house sparrow nest.
Oh,
They make a whole big thing and a little hole to go into it. Normally a Carolina wren, here's the typical answer, if you leave your boots on the porch, a Carolina wren often will nest in your boots. Or one built a nest in my barbecue grill one time. We opened a barbecue grill filled with stuff, and it was a Carolina wren. We've had a Carolina wren only nest a few times. Of 1,200 boxes around the state, I only know of a Carolina wren nesting just a couple of times, maybe 5, in a bluebird box. They usually nest at a crazy place. In your garage, I have a friend he has a garage. Garage door's always shut. He's got a shelf with all the paint cans and the insecticides and all the dangerous stuff. And every year a Carolina wren nests among the paint cans on the shelf in his garage, and he doesn't know how it gets in there. But he says when the babies fledge, they don't know how to get out. So he goes out in the garage one day and there's birds all over the place. And so he has to open the garage door and let them out, but the mother gets in it. So yeah, Carolina wren nests crazy places.
excuse me, but a house wren will be almost, a nest will be almost exclusively twigs.
No, yeah, house wren's twig. All twigs until the top. And
Okay.
there's a little other stuff, I don't know what, because I don't let them get there that far usually. It's just sticks, it always sticks. Yeah.
We
Okay.
had one Carolina
I'll answer another question, then I'll let you, whoever wants to leave can leave, and anyone that has a question can stay.
Can you add, if you have the old style, can you add
Yeah.
food to the bottom?
Absolutely.
That's a Carolina.
At the wastewater treatment plant in Fairfield Glade, we had these on all the boxes. And then I decided we needed to go to the longer ones.
Wow.
So I went out there by myself and set on a little bucket, and now we put these in the other way. But you can still do it here. And I slid the other one up underneath there, put the popper bits in, and I was done. And I did it very quickly. So, yeah, you can add the one that's already on there, you don't have to take it off. Okay, so that's, that can be done easily, very easily. Questions? Yeah.
So I have some data from the Cookville clubs. I would say, I think only 50% of our nest boxes are monitored on NestWatch. So these are only half the numbers, but right now, we had, a total of 473 eggs, which resulted in 397 alive little babies. And not everybody lives, it's, cause it's life. But we had a total, right now we're running a total of 334 fledglings. And that's just on half of our boxes. So when we get all the data, that number's gonna be in the 600s, maybe 700s, easy. So we have lots of babies.
Yeah.
We have all these babies, where do they go? Everybody just disappears.
Well,
There's not a bluebird anywhere in my yard.
They find territory, and it's got, and usually it's 100 yards from, if there's another place 100 yards away. You can, I have a box in my front yard and my backyard. Twice I've had bluebirds in both boxes at the same time. It's not 100 yards apart, but the house is in between. So these birds hunted in that direction. These hunted, it's the hunting territory that they protect, because they don't want to, they'll let tree swallow, you can put two boxes side by side. You get tree swallows in one, bluebirds in the other. You'll never get two of the same kind. So they find another place to go, but.
And you feed them mealworms during the winter, and then they're like, oh, you understand. Okay.
But there's one other thing. You know how when teenagers first learn to drive and first learn to drink, how things get dangerous out there? A lot of the most dangerous time for a bluebird is after they leave the nest. They're out there on their own. They get picked off by hawks. They get caught by a cat or something else. If you have 5 bluebird sleds, they normally don't all survive the first year. So it's something has to feed the other animals, and that's one of the things it does. So, yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop here. If you need to leave, go. If you have another question, hang around, come on up or whatever, and we'll answer anything we can. If you want to join, here, do one thing. If you want to join the Cookville Bluebird Club, Lynn, what's the cost per year here?
It's $15.
$15 a year. It makes you not only a member of the Cookville Bluebird Club, but also the Tennessee Bluebird Society. And you'll get a newsletter 4 times a year that tells you more stuff. And if you join the North American Bluebird Society, if you join 15, you get another 15, you get this free year. We don't get anything out of this, I'm just telling you if you want to learn more. And if you want a bluebird box, what do you sell them for?
$60.
$60?
For the new ones, and then some people like a used one that we have for $25.
We sell them for $65 over there, so you've got to borrow them here.
I bought 2 today.
Yeah, so if you want one of those, and what'll happen is, you guys put them in the yards. If you buy one of these, there's no use putting one up now, because nothing's gonna happen. But next January, February, probably John will come out to your yard and put it in your yard in the proper location. So, plus I have here, for all you, I have 20 of these only. So if you're a pro, you don't need one of these, but this is something I give out when we sell Bluebird box over there. That's how our club makes enough money, both clubs, that's how we make money, to be able to put Bluebird boxes at golf courses or at the trucking company place. That's how we get our money to put Bluebird boxes up in public locations that we monitor. But that's how we buy you guys buying those boxes. But here's what I give it's a front and back page that I put together myself, and it tells you the basics. Okay, the basics that we just glanced over today.
We're limited by the amount of boxes we can put up, by the amount of monitors to help us monitor.
That's true.
And that's where we're.
If you want to be one of the people that go out once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or once every 4 weeks, some of our monitors like to go once a week. Some of our monitors alternate with other people and go every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. If you want to do that, it's fun as can be. Usually you go out in the morning, you open the box, and I'll tell you, the first time we ever did this 8 or 10 years ago, we're on a golf course, and there's about 4 or 6 of us, and we open the box. Oh, look at the babies! We're all dancing around on the golf, and we say, "Hey, we're trying to putt over here." So we learned, like on a golf course especially, you got to be respectful of the people. But it is so cool to open the box and see a bunch of eggs or see a bunch of babies, and to go by the next week or 2 and see that those babies are now big and they have feathers and all. It's really fun. So if you want to be a monitor, you want to join a club, you want to join North American Bluebird Society, see Lynn back there. I'll leave these toward the back. If you, and I'll leave, for anybody in the Bluebird Club here, I'll leave 2 with Lynn. The other, I think I have 22. You can take one. If you're in the Bluebird Club, take them to the end, and Lynn can make copies and give you those, because anybody that wants one, I want them to take one today.
Could we,
Take them. Yeah.
could we post that on our Facebook page?
Did we do what?
Could we post that on our Facebook?
We could, yeah, we could.
Is that all right with you?
That's Lynn's job. I'm from across the mountain, I don't.
Yeah,
but-
but you wrote it though, right?
Yeah, I did write it.
Yeah.
And I, you know, as I went to print it yesterday, I went through and like, oh, I made a couple changes. I added this book on there as a reference instead of one I had before that wasn't as good. And I made a couple of changes, the things that we've learned over the year that I changed. Oh, we don't do that anymore. So, yeah, Lynn may, you guys over here can maybe even make it even better. So, yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's it. If you have questions, I'm definitely gonna stay here. If you don't have questions.
Thank you, Don.